on the waterfront. So thank you a ton for coming. A couple of announcements. There are 2 bathrooms downstairs and 1 bathroom here. And if you go through that door, be sure and close it after you. The bathroom's in a... That's better, I guess. Okay, also, if you want to be on the email invitation list, there's an email sign-up clipboard on that table back there. So, the first person up tonight is Helen, and I'll read you her bio. Helen Milas, am I saying your last name right? Taught Spanish for 32 years in Tacoma Public Schools, 26 years of that at Lincoln High School. Visiting countries where Spanish is spoken broadened and enriched Helen's skills as a teacher. She had the opportunity to visit 10 of the 20 Spanish-speaking countries of the world. Maybe when she's up here, she can list them in alphabetical order. One time I went on a trip, and there were a lot of world travelers on that trip, and we passed a notebook around and had everybody list every country they could think of. And most of the people had quite a few, but one guy had something like 52 countries. It's like, really? Okay. 6 years ago, Helen was able to fulfill a lifelong dream to visit Cuba. She went with a group of Tacoma Sister City members. She found in these members a group of like-minded individuals, so she joined the Cienfuegos Cuba Committee. Later, when Boca del Rio, Mexico, became a sister city, she also joined that committee. The 2 groups collaborate on many activities. Last year, Helen began developing the Youth and Education Subcommittee of Tacoma Sister Cities. This subcommittee supports and encourages projects like the virtual Pen Pal programs at Meeker, Mason, Foss, and Bellarmine, an exciting joint international business boot camp experience with UPS and UAV students. Combined with helping raise her 12-year-old grandson, Helen keeps pretty busy. Helen, you want to introduce your tribe?
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here tonight. As Lynn mentioned, I'm a member of Tacoma Sister Cities, and there is a national and a state and an international group. The Sister Cities International has for over 30 years sponsored a young artists and authors showcase. And it's designed for young people 13 to 18 years old around the globe to become involved in world issues and to understand how the arts can promote a more unified, safe, and peaceful world. As members of Sister Cities International, Tacoma and our sister cities, right now we have 13, we may submit entries. Last year we decided to create our own YAAS, we call it, because it's a very long title, that exactly mirrors the international competition. The Tacoma contest closes about 2 weeks before the international contest deadline. We select our winners, then the winning students submit to the international contest. In addition to local entries, Tacoma's allowed 5 entries per category, and there are 6 categories from each of our sister cities. This year we sponsored 11 entries from Fuzhou, China, and 6 entries from Boca del Rio, Mexico. Tonight we're featuring the entrants in digital art, photography, and art, the classic medium. Before I would introduce the young people, I would first like to thank Lynn. It's an honor to be invited here tonight. Lynn served as the chair of our art judging panel this year, and there may even be some more judges in the audience, and I want to thank you all if you participated. Each of the young people that you're going to meet submitted an entry to the 2022 YAAS. Not all those who won could make it tonight, and not all who are here won cash prizes. But I thought it important to invite all of them. I think this is an opportunity for them to meet people that have their like interests and some of the same talents that they have. So let's meet our first entrant. Benjamin. This is Benjamin Kikillis. He's 13. He attends Meeker Middle School. That's forward, that's backward, and I'll let him take it over.
Hi, pretty sure I'm the youngest one here, always have been. Do I just start? Okay.
You could take your mask off. You could
okay.
understand that.
Okay. So this photo was taken in Mesa, Arizona, at my grandmother's house, like 7:50 something. I don't like time. At sunset, laying in the street and just trying to capture as much of the trees and sun as I could.
Eric, can you dim the lights a little, please? More dim?
Yeah, more dim.
Okay.
Great.
This picture.
Thank you.
This picture connects to another photo that you will see later, laying on those rocks at Browns Point Lighthouse and just trying to get a good angle of the glimpse, and you can see the sun setting on the water in the background. This was taken in Bradenton, Florida at a beach, just capturing the sand and the sunset while, again, laying on the ground. That's the theme of these. Yeah, just capturing the sun and the sand. This was the award-winning photo, and as I said before, it ties to the rocks. Just laying on the ground, trying to capture the wave splashing at the right time, and getting the sun in the background. This was again in Florida. My mom had me come up with this idea, just standing in the gazebo and getting the full glimpse of the beach and the sunset in the background. I'm pretty sure this is the last one. Since I took these photos with the phone, I can't get a capture focus on both of these at the same time. Low budget. So I just kind of tried to focus on one of them and just found shells at the beach, because at this beach you can't find really good shells, so I just plopped it there, laid on my stomach again, captured the sun in the background and the shell at the front.
You put that shell in there?
Yeah. My brother took a similar photo with a shark tooth. He said if I put that in there and I got money from this, I have to pay him 20%.
Is that it?
I think so, yes.
And you might want to mention to them what the theme was
Oh, the theme was
for this year's contest.
water and beaches. The photo that won, this one, was called Waterworks at Sunset, just water at sunset.
Did you get wet at all?
Not on this one, but on a later one, trying to get one for my mom, yes.
What kind of camera?
iPhone 13.
Where was this one taken?
Huh?
Where'd you take that one?
Bradenton, Florida.
I thought so.
It's nice that you got the background soft.
Yeah,
It looks better than it would if it were all sharp.
Yeah.
yeah.
They're terrific.
Thank you.
As we said, the theme this year was sustainable water for all, so you should see some commonalities when they show you their entry. Next, we have Victoria Street. Victoria is 14. You're really 14, huh? Okay. And she attends Tacoma School of the Arts. I'll let you. And this is forward, and that's backward.
Okay. Hello, everyone.
Let's move that up a little bit.
Okay.
Is that possible to move it up?
Yeah.
Just like that?
There we go.
Okay. Hello? Okay. Let's see if I can just do this. Oh, okay. Hello. My name is Victoria. So I took an interest into art at a very young age, at like 5 or 6, but I didn't really know that I was really interested into it until like 3rd grade when I started really enjoying my art class. I had this really great teacher. We called her Mrs. Scott, and she really taught me like how to add your culture and like what you love into your art. So this piece is just kind of a resemblance of just being brave and like strong and showing like, you know, I like my culture and like my sister and through this piece. So
What's it painted? How's it painted?
I painted this digitally, so on a digital tablet. Okay. So this is another piece. I also like using really like kind of saturated colors. I love very vivid and bright colors. I think that's just kind of my art style. I also really love drawing people. I feel like you can show a lot through emotions and show a lot of their character, just, you know, painting. So. Okay, this is another piece. I also really love painting dresses, if you couldn't tell. I just really just try to kind of just show what I love through my art. So this is another piece that I did for Christmas, as if you can tell. So yeah. Here's another dress. I also, after I would graduate SOTA, I would like to go into, you know, the field of illustration and also maybe even animation. I found a really good interest in that. So this piece, I was really inspired by a song that I actually really love listening to. It's called Symphony by Cody Fry. It's a really great song. And I just decided, you know what, let's just paint my feelings, you know, through that song. So this is that painting. Okay, this is another one. I also try to use like a lot of references in order to really get the anatomy of the human body. So you can kind of see that through that one. Okay, this is my YAAS entry. So the theme, if you can already tell, was Generation Rescue, Sustainable Water for All, and this is what I chose. So each one of these places is a place that's like here in Tacoma or just here in Washington. So the first one on the left is a picture of a farm in eastern Washington. And I wanted to add the sprinklers, you know, to really show that's one of the ways that we use water for irrigation for crops. The second one is Mount Rainier, which is another big source of water for us here. And the third one is the water treatment place in Tacoma. And so, yeah, and once again, you can kind of really tell that I love using bright and vivid colors through that one. Is that it? Okay, that's it. Okay, questions?
Question, can you go back one image?
Here?
What's with the picture at the top?
Oh, that was the reference. So I was using that. It's like, I honestly just got it from Pinterest, but it's just a reference of, I thought it was a very interesting post and a very, like, something that I kind of don't do, because usually I draw like, kind of like just straights and like with, you know, I don't usually like go out and try, so I've been trying to do different head angles, different poses with some of the characters that I use. So, any other questions? No? Okay.
Thank you. And did Charlotte come in? Can you come on up here? Good. Charlotte was here last week as well, and we sat in the back and talked about this presentation. Charlotte is 15, is that right?
Oh, 16.
I know, I've had to change every age. I had to figure it out, and I can't get it right. I teach Spanish, not math. And so Charlotte's 16. She attends Stadium High School. To make them go forward, you push that, backward, that one. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name's Charlotte Southworth, and my
You're
first.
gonna have to speak soft into the mic.
Oh,
Why don't
sorry.
you take your mask off?
Yeah.
Okay. So this first piece, I felt really inspired after listening to one of my most favorite group's song. It's a group called Red Velvet, and I really loved their new song and new album. So I drew each of the members from a music video they released, and I really wanted to like capture the I have to improvise on this one because I didn't get to this one yet. So, and I used watercolor and some pastel as well to soften the colors. And I really like working with reds and purples, so I use some red and pink in there.
Speak into the mic.
Sorry. And I also try to, I made it very light because I thought that would match with the lightness of the music in the video. And my next piece is, this was my first commission of Stadium High School, and it's acrylic 4 foot by 4 foot. Yeah, thanks. It took really long. It took me a year. half of it was procrastinating because it was really overwhelming, and I didn't know what to do exactly because I did not have much experience with acrylic paint, but I worked with a lot of colors and I did a lot of trial and error. The sky was really tedious because I had to redo it twice. And yeah, I think it turned out okay. Thanks. This is another piece I did. It's acrylic. Again, I love acrylic paint. It's so fun. And what I did was I gessoed the watercolor paper so that I didn't have to buy a canvas, which added a really interesting texture. And I really wanted that to stay, so I watered down the acrylic paint and added washes over it, as you can see. And that really helped because then I could go over with like opaque acrylic paint and add nicer detail that would stand out. And this was inspired after I took like a trip to Seattle with my mom on the light rail, and I really wanted to highlight how we have very different interests in things like, but we're still family and we still had a fun time, you know.
Just you and your mom?
Yeah. Thank you. My next piece is a piece inspired from Westport. This was a house there that we bought, and it's now being used for Airbnb. And I wanted to paint the kitchen and use very vivid colors to show memories spent there with family. And as you can see, kind of like these shadows of people, it's like overlapping from the countless times that I've had there in that kitchen. And I used tissue paper because I thought that added a really interesting texture. And like it goes with the title paper memories as well of Westport. This is another piece. I felt really inspired by impressionistic techniques, and this was another one where I gessoed the canvas, which is like a primer, and added some more texture, as you can see. And for like the pillar in the middle, you can see some of that texture coming out because of how the wash over it really highlights the grooves from painting over it. And I would just build up layers here, how like I do with watercolor. I used watercolor techniques for this one. And lots of yellows and browns to kind of show a sunny morning. This is another one. I was in the middle of multiple deadlines. This was in the middle of the school year, and I wanted to highlight it with a lot of oranges and purples because I thought those colors really speak to me like an intense feeling. Even the pose too, as well. And as well, I also used a flat brush as well, not like to get most of those lines and those smaller details. This is another one. This is actually of my salt lamp right next to this. In my room, I have this vibrant red wallpaper, and I really loved how when I turned on the salt lamp, it kind of made the flowers on the wallpaper come to life. And so I wanted to illustrate that really badly because I was really inspired. And so I once again did like a light wash of acrylic to see where I was going, and I was gonna stick with that, but I found that like adding a nice opaque gradient from the salt lamp makes it stand out more. And this is another one. It's also to highlight stress and stuff, because a bunch of these paintings were done for an AP art portfolio, which I need to get done in time. And so once again, you see purples and reds. So I have a very strong preference towards those colors, which I've discovered because of these couple of paintings. And I felt really inspired by like the composition, because I liked the light over there kind of reflecting off of the person and the bed and the room too. And this is another one. This is watercolor, and I really wanted to paint the inside of this sailboat, of my parents' sailboat, because I remember spending a lot of nice winter nights there, but at the same time, the heater would take forever to warm up, and there wasn't a reliable heat source, so, you know, it was great. I loved it. It was fun, though. And once again, more purples as well. And what I did was I layered layers and did another light wash with those colors. And this was the submission for the art contest. And I really wanted to highlight the beauty of water as well with a jetty, the jetty at Westport. I thought it was really beautiful, the like browns and grays with the blues, and the people on the beach, to highlight how we need to protect this earth to keep the beauty of it now as well. And I thought that was very important with like this ocean and how it's a highlight, because a lot of people go to Westport for surfing and fishing and seafood. It's really good. And yeah, I think that's all. Yep, that's all. Thank you. any questions?
take those from memory, or are you looking at like a photograph, or how do you remember all the details, like inside the sailboat and stuff?
I usually do go from a photograph for a reference, but I do like changing the color and the contrast a lot in my pieces to highlight certain features that really like drew my eye. Like for this jetty, when I took a picture, I really loved the light blues along the brays, but I toned that down a bit so that I could really make the brown pop. And like with the first picture, with the 5 like women in the portrait, I really wanted to highlight like just their beauty with simple paint like techniques and not making the background too busy, so that the focus was them. So yeah.
Do you have any problem with the fact when you walk outdoors, it's mostly blue and green?
I mean,
He's just teasing.
I'm just teasing.
I don't know. I like blue and green too. I really like red and purple right now a lot. So it's just the vibrance of it. But like green and blue still draws my eye. But it reminds me of like calm. Like, you know,
Great,
yeah.
thank you.
Thank you.
Our next entrant is Gabriel. Gabriel is 16. See, I got one right. And he also attends Tacoma School of the Arts.
I'm not this tall. All right. Does that work? Can everybody hear me? All right, cool. So I'm Gabriel. I go to Tacoma School of the Arts. I am a sophomore. My major is graphic design, but I do enjoy photography, like from time to time on the side. Okay. So a little backstory. I went to Arizona in the summertime last summer, and during that time, I wanted to express myself and take photos. And one of the majority of the photos are going to be landscape photos of one of the 7 world natural wonders, the Grand Canyon. This first one, I love the view of it. I love how it's like all the scenery in the back and just like all the colors just mix in. I kind of just wanted to get like the straight center shot of it and just have like all of it just like collect itself, like have it all just naturally collect itself into like one great photo. This is kind of like the same photo as the one before. It's just more directly turned towards like the green and the natural wildlife onto like the side of it instead of getting the people in the way in the far left. Great, more people. This next one is where one of the viewpoints at the Grand Canyon. I just love how the red of the Grand Canyon and like the green mixed in stood out to me. And then also just like it was a nice clear blue sky. Well, not clear blue sky. A little cloudy. It's just all the colors. They just felt like warm, comforting, like a home feeling to me. So I just felt like I should took this photo. This one also spoke out to me as well. These are also all from like different viewpoints from the Grand Canyon. You like drive along this like long pathway through like this long forest area. It's very great. This one we stopped at like on the side of the road, and just looking at it, it kind of just made me feel like, wow, like that's just like a great photo. Let me just get out, hop out, and just take that photo real quick, and then get back up on our journey, just exploring like the natural wildlife and just the great environment of our outdoors in Washington. No, this is this? Yeah. Oh yeah, it isn't it? That's true, Arizona, my bad. Whoops. Thank you, Samuel. This one, I kind of wanted to get more of like the desert look and kind of like the dead tree, just like more of like kind of more just the darker side or the drier side of the Arizona. Not everything is filled with great wildlife. Some of it is also dead and rotting. This one was my submission for the YAAS. It stood out to me the most because just the amount of green and also like the amount of like nature and also like natural things that would be into this. The Columbian River? Colorado. Thank you, Mom. The Colorado River runs through it, majority of the Grand Canyon, and this one, majority of the time, just took my heart away with this photo. Any questions, comments? Oh, this was the last one, by the way.
Do you cull maybe? Do you take a lot of photos?
I do. From time to time, I do take a lot of photos. It's just the things that stand out to me, like landscapes, or if I were to take photos of people, I'd either like, go from a higher like vantage point or a lower vantage point, just like different camera angles and like different viewpoints, rule of thirds, or just different like styles and different areas, lighting, for example. Lots of factors would come into it from the many photos that I would take, though.
What kind of camera do you use?
I use my phone, which would be an Android, surprisingly. Yes.
Are you familiar with a photographer named Ansel Adams?
No, I'm not.
Okay, there's an exhibit, he's probably one of the greatest landscape photographers of the 20th century.
Mhm.
There's an exhibit that opens very soon up in Seattle
Okay.
at the Museum of History and Industry. I highly encourage, it's the same one we saw in Portland. I highly encourage you to see it, you'll love it.
Cool. Thank you.
It's work like this, but in black and white.
Ooh. I would also take my photos and change the colors of it or turn it into a black and white just to see like the different feels of it. Like, oh, would this maybe look better with different lighting or like a different foreground or shadow? And also the black and white, the nice textures and added to it as well. And thank you.
Well, you have great color sense.
Thank you.
Thank you, and I made it up here last time without falling. I'm glad. Our last entrant is Jayla Howard. Jayla has the unique description tonight. She is the only person in Tacoma that entered YAAS 2 years in a row. We only had it last year and this year. She won both times in different categories, and her last year winning photo was on your invitation for tonight, and it went on to take second prize in the international contest in Washington, D.C. So we're pleased to have her.
Again, my name is Jayla Howard, and it's an honor to be here, honestly, and I'm, oh, sorry. As I was saying, it's an honor to be here. My name is Jayla Howard, and I'm glad my family can come out, and my friend Kanijah, and the rest of my family, my brothers, and my mom, and my dad. I'm very happy. All right, let's begin. All right, that's kind of small. This is a portrait I drew for my mother for Christmas. It doesn't really have a name, but I thought for my mother, I'd make this nice painting of her. I used acrylic paints and whatnot, and so like I drew her, and I really wanted to give her dark skin like my mother, and big lips and whatnot, and I thought it came out really nice. I'm not really used to painting. I really love digital art. It's more preferable, but actually this one came out really nice. And so I thought that was pretty cool. And I added the little flowers because I know she would love that. And she did. All right. Next photo. These all are very small. Thank you. So this photo is actually, I took the inspiration from, I don't know if anyone's seen it, the show Adventure Time. I used a reference. My reference was Princess Bubblegum, and this happens to be the same character. I just drew her in my art style, and I gave her a darker skin tone because as I was younger, my parents told me that all my characters should look like me, and like I did, she looks like me. And so, like I said. And so I really did change her a little bit, and like her dress is more shorter, and I really like the ruffles I made. And so that was my inspiration for this photo. I actually drew this very recently, going to my grandparents' house. They live far out there, and so I thought this was pretty cool, and I was able to come back and show like all my friends and whatnot. And so, yeah. And so this photo is actually very interesting to me because it roots from a story I'm making. I'm very much of a storyteller. I love art more, but my art incorporates with my stories. So I have a lot of unfinished stories I would like to finish one day and maybe publish or turn into movies. When I grow up, I want to be like a movie director, and I thought that would be pretty cool. And so this story, hopefully I can get this like finished and maybe one day turn it into something to use these characters. And so, yeah, hopefully one of you guys had the pleasure to actually see the story in like a movie, animation, or story. I'm really into animating. I make my own home animations at home, which is really cool. All right. This is another photo I entered for another contest. I haven't got back the review, so like I don't know what place I'm in or whatnot, if I won or not. I'm sure I did, but I'm pretty good. Anyways, this is a really nice photo because it really helped me, like, I wanted to try out lighting and whatnot, and so, like, this is, as you can see, these photos are, like, very bright. I think I really did really good on the flowers and whatnot and the leaves and making them fall down, because, like, as for, like, this photo, this is a really good depiction of how I draw my photos, because I started when I was just sketching in my sketchbook, and then I was thinking, oh, maybe I should add a flower. Maybe I should add a flower here in the corner. What if leaves were falling down? That's really how I do my art, and so I thought it was really cool to add this one and explain that, because like my ideas go from one idea to another, and so that's why I love creating stories and whatnot. All right, let's go. This one as well, which is pretty cool how this was after the other one. This one actually roots from another story that I'm working on. I like to start stories from inspiration that I get from dreams and whatnot, or like music. I get a lot of inspiration from dreams, music, other stories, comics, and whatnot. And this one is actually a work in progress. I really thought it was cool. And so the girl, she had just almost fell into the water, and the boy is trying to save her before she like falls in, and then which leads to another dimension. So that story is actually going to be really cool. So I'd advise you to, like, if you see that art style, you just know it's me, and then I would definitely advise you to read it. And because it gets like better and better, because my stories are like very sci-fi. So if you're into that kind of stuff, I would definitely check it out. All right. So this is actually a sketch I was working on inside my computer graphics class. I just finished my project, and so I had some extra time, and I decided drawing to some Ariana Grande music I was listening to. So this actually came out pretty interesting. I added this one because it really inspired me. Like, I didn't realize I could draw, didn't think I could draw like this pose, and I thought it was pretty cool. Her leaves like kind of like an umbrella, and then she's like out and pouring, and she doesn't have any eyes. So like I was like, it's weird, but at the same time it came out really nice. And that person on the right, that just came inside the photo, but actually it actually has a story behind it too. I'll explain really quick. For my school, high school Lincoln, I drew this photo for my team who wanted to start a petition for better school lunches, because the school lunches aren't as good. Even though it may be free, it's just not as good for the students there. I take my home lunch, but I do feel bad for the kids who do have to eat it, like if something is rotting or something, because that's not good. And so I drew this photo and gave it to them for them to borrow. All right, next photo. I'll wait till he zooms in so you guys can see. All right, so this photo is actually inspired by an anime I was watching. My friend recommended the anime Fire Force, and I thought, as I was watching it, I thought this show was pretty cool. I never went back to it, but it was a good show. So this character, she's named after me, and so like she's not a part of the show, but using that using that character, using the characters from the show, I created my own character and gave her like superpowers from the show, because the show is basically about having fire out of their hands and whatnot, and shooting out of their hands, and it's pretty cool. So, yeah. This one is just a picture from my sketchbook, because I thought instead of just showing all digital art, that I show that I'm very like into multimedia. I love all kinds of art, no matter music, acting, drawing, digital arts, painting. I love it all. And so I just thought I'd show like all aspects of my art style. So this is like a piece from my sketchbook. It's kind of blurry. So a piece from my sketchbook. There's not really much to say about it. I was just kept on drawing and drawing and drawing and drawing. And that's basically what my sketchbook's full of. So, yeah. This photo I wanted to show for like, this is also a piece from my sketchbook. This photo doesn't really have much meaning, but it did come from, I did draw this during quarantine, and that's where like I really started getting back into art. I've drawn like probably like all my life, and so I just really started getting into more art during COVID, because a lot of people got into new things. I thought I should just probably pursue art, and I got better and better at it. I used to not be as good as I'm good as now. I'm not saying I was bad before, but I feel like I am getting better, and practicing every day really helps me. And so this one I use acrylic paints for the clouds and whatnot, and then for the background I use a watercolor, and then I use like that acrylic plate kind of that you see around it as like kind of like cracks. It's unfinished, but it still looks really good. All right. This one I drew during Christmas time. It doesn't really have much relation to Christmas time, but there is another story for it. Like I said, I make a lot of stories. Mostly all of them are unfinished. I do have some finished ones. But this one actually is really cool because it's really cool. I forgot the word that my mom said it was, but it's like you can't be too trusting. That's like basically the theme of it, because as you can see, this boy is helping her, but he also has a knife in his back. But like, is he gonna stab her? Is he using it for protection? You never know. It's more like what do you think of it? What do you think is gonna happen? You finish the story. So as of right now. And so, yeah. This one I also drew for a contest. I just never submitted it. I never submitted it, but this boy has like superpowers. He can like move water. I believe I drew this one after the water sustainability contest. I just didn't submit this one. I preferred my other one. Or I preferred my other one, but I still think I drew this afterwards. I don't recall. But this one actually came out really nice, and it was a sketch in my sketchbook that I just finally turned into a digital art. This is my first place contest winner right here. This is what gave me that first place. Her name is Woman of the Lake. She has lots of fish in her hair, flowers, things that you would see at a lake, and it really shows beauty of water, honestly. Like, you can see all the stuff, and I really like how I captured this image because it just came out like really good. I don't usually draw water or color water, and so I was actually impressed myself with this one. So, yeah. Oh, that's it. Thank you.
Any questions?
Oh, any questions? Yes.
What's the name of the pirate crew?
The pirate crew?
From One Piece? The One Piece for the falling through the clouds?
Oh, that's not a pirate crew. That actually was just like something I was just thinking about over quarantine. That wasn't much of inspiration or reference from anything. I just actually just drew that in my notebook because I was kind of feeling it. Yeah. Any more questions? Yes? Jayla Planet that was on a lot of pictures. Oh, okay. So Jayla Planet is like my username. If you want to, you can follow me on Instagram at Jayla Planet, lowercase j, everything is lowercase. You can follow me there to find out more about my art and whatnot. And so Jayla Planet is kind of my username, and so make sure nobody copies me and whatnot. Somebody takes that photo because I added a watermark.
Thank you.
I think you may see why I wanted to bring these kids here tonight. They're pretty talented. And I hope that they have an opportunity to meet some of you. That's the whole point of bringing people together who have like talents and like interests. So thank you again for bringing us here.
So next is Davis Freeman, and he's primarily known as a professional photographer. He has commented, "It's a great deal of fun taking pictures." At 17, he stood in his friend's darkroom and watched his first photographic image appear as it came to life in the photo developer. He was hooked. Since then, he's had a good fortune to work in an occupation he finds eternally exciting. Always a new image to find, always a new face to capture. He's worked with some of the best magazines, Newswork, People, George, Fortune, and Time Warner. Photography has allowed him to meet and photograph some very distinctive people, as you will see. From a Basque clown to the Dalai Lama, it's been a journey. And always, the next assignment brings a new adventure. Since moving to Seattle, or from Seattle to Tacoma in 2017, he has devoted much of his time to writing his personal journey through his early life, his discovery of photography as a passion, and after 40 years of self-reflection, realized how the huge hurdles of his early childhood prepared him for a successful career. Davis?
There we go. Everyone hear me okay? Thank you. I love that. I'm popular and haven't said anything yet. Thank you all for being here tonight. I really appreciate it, particularly for Lynn and Erik up in the booth. Tripod we discovered when we moved here is a wonderful mostly monthly, forgetting COVID affair. So I'm going to talk a little bit tonight, but okay, I'm going to tell you. Before we got started and Lynn was introducing me, I leaned over to my wife, Beth, who's sitting in the front row, and I said, "You know, Beth, I haven't talked in front of an audience in a couple of years, and I'm a little nervous." And she leaned back over and she said, "Did you take that Xanax I gave you?" And I said, "I did." She said, "You'll be fine." So here we go. Let's see, how's this going to work? I'm supposed to do it. Let's see if I can get past here. There we go. Okay, so I've had a long professional career in photography, and I'm skilled in medical photography, portrait photography, corporate and industrial photography. I particularly like photojournalism, and weddings. I've done more than my fair share. And then my personal work, and it covers many fields. These are my botanical series, and these are my illustratype series that were made with Polaroid film. And if I had time, we'd talk about them. But to get here was a very arduous and long personal journey. But before I get back into my long personal journey, I want to tell you a story about late in my career. It was 2008. I was 58 years old. I was co-chair of something called Seeds of Compassion that ran in Seattle, and it celebrated children around the world, and His Holiness the Dalai Lama was the main speaker. And I was, being co-chair, I had two things I had to do. Get photographers to cover the 4-day event, and I had suggested to bring in the big Polaroid camera to photograph His Holiness and people that visited with him, create a book, and then we could sell it to make money for the nonprofit. Well, I got my 25 photographers who took 35,000 images in 4 days. It was amazing. Let me see my path here. So you're probably not, many of you are not familiar with the big Polaroid camera. So here it is. This is the camera, and on the tripod, it's well over 6 feet tall. This is me in the early 2000s. This is one sheet of Polaroid, And if we have time at the end, I'll show you the one of His Holiness. I brought it here, a copy actually. And we had it shipped in. We rented it out of New York, had it shipped in with a technician. The Dalai Lama was to arrive on a Friday. It was Monday. It came in this giant box. It was like an IKEA camera. We opened it up and we had to put it together. It took us all afternoon, but we did it. And here it is. Well, I was doing my first test shot, and you can see the bellows here stretches more than 10 feet long often. They gave us a suite next to His Holiness's. We took all the furniture out of the bedroom. We had this tiny little studio. It could barely get in my lights, the background, and the camera. The camera took up at least half, if not 2/3 of the space. So we got it all together. I went home. I went to bed. I was feeling really good. I woke up the next morning. I had 101 degree fever, the sweats. So I got a little nervous, as you could imagine, and I started making phone calls. I finally ended up calling my naturopathic doctor, and I told him on the phone, I have 101 degree fever, the shakes, and need help. I'll try anything, shots, drugs, experimental drugs. And I said this, anything. He suggested 2 shots of B12. I went down, 1 in each hip, pop, pop. So a few days went by. Friday morning at 8 o'clock a.m., the Dalai Lama walks in with Dave Matthews, the musician. We had about a 15-minute session, which is actually a pretty good session. Got off 3 good Polaroids. They walked out the door. The door was shut. I looked at my crew, the great crew, and I said, holy fuck, we did it! I was so nervous. So for the next 4 days, I photographed the many visitors and a lot of the volunteers. Where was this? This was in Seattle. And it brought in over 175,000 people attended. It was the first or second largest event since like the Seattle World's Fair. And I forget the hotel we were in. We were downtown at some hotel. But here's the Dalai Lama, and that's actually about the size, maybe a little big, but that's about the size. And this is Dave Matthews' 2 children. He brought his daughters in. This is actually one of my favorite pictures of the whole weekend, or whole 4 days, I should say. Now, about 4 days or so after this event, I began to reflect on how my early life's experiences, which I had been exploring through my writing, when seen as hurdles and not impossible walls, provided me the framework for dealing with almost any situation. And I want to add something I hadn't written, but all you young students that came up here earlier, there's no possible way I would have done that when I was your age. Even if you were a little nervous, you guys did great. But I'll move on from here. But really. Yeah. So, I grew up with love. This is me and one of my first baths and a neighbor girl. With love, and this is me. Back in the 50s, these horses came by, and for like $1 or something, and you could have your picture taken. But I also grew up with a lot of adversity and deprivation. I had a much older brother, he was 11 years older, who told me as an adult that he hated me for being born. And he treated me more or less that way most of our life. By the time I was born, my father was a flaming alcoholic, a gambler, and at times really violent. Now I'm about to talk about my mom, but let me say right here, my mother and I had a lifelong love affair. We loved each other till the end, and we were very close. However, my mother, she lacked most physical affection, excuse me, and with zero knowledge of dealing with someone with my temperament and creative personality, unknowingly, she inflicted on me this misunderstanding throughout my life. She had very creative and sometimes heinous ways of keeping me in line as a child and teenager. As a senior in high school, my mother and her then boyfriend, Bruno, decided my room was a mess. Now, how many teenagers don't have a messy room? I mean, come on, really. Maybe a few, but not me. So I came home one day from school, and my bedroom was covered in dirt, leaves, branches, and more. Bruno and my mother confronted me, saying, if you want to live like a pig, your room should be like a sty. And that was just one of many things. So anyway, When I informed my uncles, my mother came from a family of 10, when I informed my uncles of what just went on, Bruno all of a sudden disappeared out of my mother's life. And I swear to this day, I don't know what happened. But he was gone. Anyway, during this time, my father was a drunk and could be very dangerous. Before we get there, let me give you a few hallmarks of my childhood. I was born a highly sensitive person, and I still am. I was developing as a child a curiosity in all things. I was surrounded by an array of insecurities and at times severe anxieties as a child and into my teens, really. Watching my mother prepare to escape in order to save our lives many times taught me to always be prepared. Where is it? There we are. It taught me to always be prepared. Oh, and let me say, as a child, I was a little bit stubborn. So back to my beginnings. I was born in 1950 in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, in the Deep South, in a small town who paid no attention to artists. My high school had 0 art classes for you guys in high school. 0. None. My mother called me her little monkey, and I used to climb over everything. I still like to climb. I've always liked to climb. But by the 6th grade, I was ready to get involved in my community. I wanted to. I don't know. I wanted to perform in front of people. I just wanted to hang out in groups without anxieties. This is me in the 6th grade. This is me back here being a little science geek. That's a microscope there. And, you know, in the 50s, science geeks didn't have a lot of friends. Maybe today it's different with tech and all that. But back then, you were kind of alone. So I could be involved but not be around people. But I was determined to overcome as many of these hurdles as possible. Now, in a more understanding and supportive environment in my family, I might have ended up joining the circus or going to Broadway and auditioning. But that required a lot of support, which I didn't have. And it required someone to wrap their arms around a very insecure kid, which, again, I didn't have. Instead, let me give you some of my family history. My mother, Zola Irene Freeman Davis, I'm sorry, that's her married name, Davis, was born in North Louisiana to a family of sharecroppers. In about 1922-ish, when my mother was 2 or 3 years old, her father and their 8 kids took a covered wagon from North Louisiana to Baton Rouge. So let me make this clear. I am 1 generation from covered wagons. That freaks me out. Yeah, that really, it's amazing. So they made it down. He wanted to go work at Exxon Oil Company. He ended up in a glue factory working seriously and really, but he found a job. My father, this is him on the left, he was born probably in Alabama. He was an orphan, and he was raised by a much older couple. When he was 17, he rode the I'm going to get some water, guys. Excuse me. At 17, he rode the rails west, ended up in Baton Rouge at a bus stop waiting for his friend, where my grandfather, coming back from the glue factory, walked by and said, "Kid, what are you doing?" My father said, "I'm waiting for a friend." My grandfather said, "How long you been here?" He said, "I don't know, 4 or 5 hours." He said, "Kid, he ain't coming back. Come home with me." And adopted him, basically. It was amazing. So brought this 17-year-old home to meet my 12-year-old would-be mother. Excuse me. At 16, they were married. At 16, when she was 16 and he was 21, they were married. And 3 years later, had my older brother. So my father, by all accounts, was very smart. He had great initiative and a fantastic business sense. And I think my son, who's here tonight, took all his qualities from him. He started his own business a few years ago, and he's doing dynamite. I'm so proud of him. They were very successful. This is in the 30s, during the Depression. By the time my father was in his mid-20s, my mother was still a teenager. They moved in Baton Rouge in the highest circles and wanted for nothing. To deal with his anxieties, my mother said he started to drink. And soon after that became an alcoholic. And over time, he drank and gambled away our assets. He ended up dying destitute and at 60 with throat cancer. So here he is at 25. Here he is about 58. The last time I saw him. After, I have very few memories of my father, and after the 3rd grade, I saw him maybe 2 or 3 times, maybe. The memories I have of him are mixed, and they're detached and with a great fear of anger. That didn't change. Come on. Change. Let me go back. Oh, there we go. Oh, who's that? Eric, I think I need your help. Okay. Aha, here we are. So here we are. Here's my dad holding me as a child. And even here, he looks a wee bit glassy-eyed to me. Here he is 24 years later. And here I am just out at being mustered out of the Army. So I was 24. He was in his late 50s. Okay, let me get this straight here. There we go. Now, my mother and I were always escaping my father's anger and wrath. Finally, in 1958, she escaped with me for the last time and filed for divorce. Now, this is one of my favorite pictures on the planet. That I don't know who took it. It had to probably be my brother or my dad. But we're on the Gulf of Mexico, living in Louisiana, and we're looking out to sea, my mom and I. I have this framed over my desk, and it's been over my desk for about 50 years. It's that idea to escape. Excuse me, get a little choked up here. After my mother left in the mid-50s, my dad, for a little short while she ran our painting business, was able to sell it finally, and at 39 had her first paying job. This is a woman with no high school, didn't even attend high school. We moved from a suburban upper-class neighborhood to the inner city into a one-bedroom duplex. We were 2 blocks from the rough part of town, and during these years, I was always watchful and attempting to stay out of trouble, or out of harm's way, I mean to say. We were scraping by. My first money-making adventure was picking up Coke bottles and cleaning them with my buddy, and I was in the 4th or 5th grade, and we'd take them to the Coke factory, and you'd get a penny apiece for them. Now, for you people, under 70, a penny apiece was a lot of money back in the 50s. You could buy a hamburger for probably a dime back then. After a couple of years, my mom was able to buy a duplex, a little 2-bedroom a little 2-bedroom house next to a really Tony area, which was her style. She always wanted to live next to that money. And life became a lot less stressful for both of us. Now, I'm told when my father was sober, he was kind, he was relaxed, he was funny and generous. When drunk, often rage and terror. I want to tell you a story. So when I was about this old, this is the den in the house my dad built for my mom. My father was confronting my mother with a shotgun, which was often, telling her that she had cheated on him, which actually it was the reverse. I found out later in life. He forced us down the hallway into this living room and told us to sit on this sofa. This is him in better times. He sat in this chair, shotgun over his knee. My mom said, climb up in my lap, which I did. She whispered to me, be quiet, don't say anything, he won't hurt you, he'll be asleep in a minute. My father babbled on, I don't remember, I was young. Finally, the chair started to rock and stopped rocking. He passed out. My mom scooped me up, took us out, quietly out, and then ran to the car to one of my aunts. Common. Another time, I remember seeing the knife marks in the door outside my room where my brother and I stayed, where he tried to get into us and apparently didn't make it. Now, one thing is odd. We never called the police. Families just let it blow over. Think this was normal life for the Freeman family in 1950s Louisiana. So I started therapy at 32. What else should I do? This is my dad at 31 and me at 32. I remember asking my therapist on the first or second session, now how long is this going to take? She said, well, it took you 32 years to get here, about 32 years. Now, oddly, at 65, my new therapist, retired. And I felt by then I'd taken care of most of the problems I saw in my early life and was able to take those hurdles and go around them. Then, whoa, then in high school, I discovered photography. Lynn read it a little bit. My best friend in high school and almost in life is this fellow here named Randy LeRae. He and I became the high school yearbook photographers. And what I learned about photography then is you could hold that camera and be slightly detached, so it protected you in a crowd. So I could ride on the buses with the cheerleaders and not be a football guy, or even be a sports fan, which I've never been. I could go into a crowd of people because I had to cover it with my camera for the yearbook, and I felt comfortable. So it became a tool that I used through life to allow me to socialize, and I've done that all my life. At the same time, I continued to take classes in debate in high school. In college, I took classes in presentation, debate. I have a degree in psychology, one of my classes, one of my degrees. I wasn't sure what I'd be doing with all this, but I was just sure that I enjoyed it. Well, after college, I got a letter in 1972 from Uncle Sam that said, "Greetings." And I was drafted during Vietnam. Now, I didn't go to Vietnam, but I was put on a psych ward. No, I wasn't put on a psych ward. I was working on a psych ward. And I was working as a social worker. I was a private, and I was doing social work on a psych ward. That's the military for you. I loved it. Excuse me. Now, I've written about 60,000 words detailing my early days. Then after decades of therapy, workshops, self-discovery, I came to the realization I had taken many of my childhood obstacles and personality traits, then used, tweaked, or overcame them to create a very successful photo career. Let me give you a few examples. Whoops, did I get this out of place? Hold on. That is definitely not right. Oh, I skipped. Okay, don't worry about it. So, 2 pages stuck together. That is all true what I said. I apologize. But after the Army, I moved to Seattle, and I discovered something called biomedical photography. So I got a degree in biomed photography. And if you don't know, biomedical photography is working in a hospital and photographing anything a doctor or staff wants you to photograph. So I photographed everything from births to autopsies. I've done CSI before they called it CSI. I photographed a woman who had a horn being grown out of her head because it was out of calcium because she didn't want to clip it off for some reason. And I actually liked the job, but it was time to move on after a little while. And I ended up and pursued an opportunity at the UW. And at the UW, I photographed this this surgery. It was the first heart plant surgery by a woman in the Northwest. I take that back, in North America. And this was Dr. Allen. She was 32 years old. This is the old heart coming out before they put the new heart in. Fascinating surgery. You know what was even more fascinating was the dead body next door, where they were taking the liver out and all these things out because they were sending it off, and they used little igloo ice packs. Weird. Anyway, while at the university, I photographed a lot of things. These are the Board of Regents. This is Suzzallo Library. And someone I met there, her name was Mary Gates. This is Mary Gates. This is Mary Gates. Happened to be the mother of Bill Gates. She and I bonded over photography. She loved photography, so we became friends, and actually she became something of a mentor to me. And I remember early in our relationship, she said, "Davis, what do you want to do with your photography?" And I swear to God, I don't know why I said that, but I said, "I want to be famous." And she said, "Oh, no, you want to be rich. Money stays, fame can fade." And I thought, well, actually, Mary, I want to be the best in my field. But I took that to heart, and she had a lot of truth in that. Another time, I told her about my insecurities about dealing with people. I had trouble being around people. She said, "Davis, some of the most successful people on the planet go home at night, have a drink, kick their feet up, and laugh because they pull the eyes over everybody one more day because they're just as insecure as you are." And then she also told me to start my own business. she was a true friend and mentor. This picture I took in the early 90s of her business picture, and sadly, she died just a few months after that, a very untimely death. But this was the last picture. This was used at her funeral service, which to me was a little weird, but she was a wonderful person. Okay. Then I started my career, my business, in the early 90s, and I worked in many, many different fields of photography. This is one of my favorite. This was a commission work for the city of Seattle. 3 of these 4 were commissioned artists. I did a dozen for the city for their collection. And I've already told you about the 60,000 words that I wrote. But let me give you a few examples of how my early childhood I turned and was able to use or tweak to be successful in my business. The first one being, I'll go through these quickly because I know my time's running out. The first one is being highly sensitive. Well, I take that, and it gave me the ability to predict people's reactions and movements. A great tool to capture a smile or a moment of change. So I was working with this family out in the park, and I said, hey, and I knew she'd do something, and this is what she did, and I got this great picture. Another time, Beth and I were on holiday in Dublin, Ireland, and we saw about half a dozen kids playing in the field, a private school. It looked to me very Victorian or 19th century, and I started taking pictures, and she finally turned, and bam, I got my shot. This won an international award for black and white photography, by the way. So, where are we? Then, growing insecurities. So I found that if I could withhold my insecurities and present a kind of a type A personality when I was dealing with high-end and executives that, and well-known people, I could get along in a photo session, which normally lasts anywhere from 15 minutes to a few hours if you're doing like celebrities. And finally, always preparing to escape turned into always being prepared for any contingency. So when I go out on assignment, I bring at least 4 camera bodies, at least. Now, at least one time I went through 3 broke, and I had to depend on that 4th. So I was prepared. Oh, and did I mention, as a child, I was a little stubborn, and as an adult, I am too. So, in 2017, Beth and I moved down here. I shut my shop up in Seattle, moved down here. This is some pictures we took on a trip down to Florida and back. And I'm, as I said, from Louisiana, and I have friends all over the Southwest. Just fun pictures. I also started a project here. This is from the Red Elm. You might see yourself in this or know people. And it got stopped because of COVID. But I hope to plan that series again. So, I still harbor insecurities and more. I mean, who doesn't, right? We all have that. But, as in the beginning, I see life as a series of hurdles. You have several choices. You can go around that hurdle, you can go over that hurdle. If you do that, you might get to your goal. But if you never try, the answer is always no. Now let me leave you with a little quote from Joseph Campbell. I say, follow your bliss and don't be afraid. And doors will open where you didn't know they were going to be. Thank you very much. Aloha. Questions? Questions?
You have a picture of the horn lady?
I do. I tend not to show those because it freaks people out. Yeah.
That was amazing. I have to wake up at 1 in the morning, so I
Oh, please.
get ready to tap out, but that was amazing.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
How did you end up taking the shot of the Regents at the University of Washington?
It was part of my job at the university. In fact, my first 2 weeks there, I worked for the Department of News and Information Services. And the news guy said, you have to take the Regent shots, not the one I showed you, but just together in the room. And it was filled, it's like this. And they're hanging around about to start their meeting. And I'm 30 years old, right? And I looked 19 at the time. I mean, I'm 72 now, not that I look 19, but so I said, hey, everybody over here, just like that. And And I got them all over, and the guy said, I could hear him talk to the person next to him, he's gonna work out. So the next time, I had taken some classes by a photographer named Arnold Newman, who's another mentor, and he does what's called environmental portraits. That is taking people and putting them in environments. So I wanted to do something like that and put it up in Suzzallo, but I had to convince them to walk across Red Square, which is one building away, and it was raining. And they said, no, come over here, and I refused. And I got my assistants to go and walk them over with umbrellas, and that's how I got in Suzzallo.
The last question, how did Mrs. Gates die of what?
Oh, like a cancer. It was came on very quick. Cancer or heart attack, it's been so long. I know I was shocked. We just finished that photo session, and I hadn't quite gotten her to the prints, and I get a call from her PR agency, and she said, are you Davis Freeman? I said, yeah. Are you the one that did Miss Gates' pictures? Mrs. Gates? I said, yeah. I said, well, I'm sorry to have to tell you she died. And could we use that for the memorial service? And I said, yeah. So when I went, it was 1,000 people in the auditorium, and they all were holding this brochure about the events, and her picture was an 8x10 on the cover, and it was just, I looked out and saw 800 people holding my picture up, and it made me feel very uncomfortable. The guy next to me said, what do you do? And I said, I'm a photographer, but I didn't say I did this picture. I just didn't feel like doing it. She was I'll tell you one more thing about Mary Gates. She called her son Trey, and they would go to, and this is, when I met Mary Gates, Bill Gates was just this guy that had a small company over in Bellevue. He didn't hit the world till 1990 or so. So she told me that she used to take him to business meetings, and they would say, this is Mary Gates and her son Bill. And she said, she was very competitive. She said, I knew he had gotten more popular than me when I went to one of these luncheons, and they said, this is Bill Gates and his mother, which she did not like. Any other questions? Oh, one quickie. The big Polaroid. I'll show you just a second. So this is a Polaroid from a 4x5. This is a Polaroid. That's it. That's the real Polaroid.
Of whom?
That's me. And we're the co-chairs.
Who invented it?
Polaroid. I don't know beyond Polaroid.
Is that a man's name?
It was invented by Polaroid because they wanted to get really detailed shots of textiles in museums. And the museums went to Polaroid and said, can you do anything for us? So they did this. And they photographed ancient textiles in the Museum of wherever in New York City. And then they started renting it out to people. And because I invented something for Polaroid, that's another whole story. They offered to send it out and let me play with it. And other photographers, not just me. And so when this came around, I said, well, let's bring out the Polaroid. And they wanted to do, they wanted to make a concert and have Crosby, Stills and Nash and the Rolling Stones and all these people. And they had it all planned, except I knew, because I worked with bands, no freaking way in 6 months are those people going to have it in their schedule. So Dave Matthews did the one-off concert, but they still brought out the camera, and I was fine with it. So I got to take pictures like this of, I got to meet Desmond Tutu and all those people. But that's the real Polaroid. Yes, sir. You had a question?
How big is it again?
About 22 by 30 inches, 2 by 3 feet, as opposed to this is the old. It's been a pleasure talking to anybody. Any last question?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Before I forget, I want to tell you, next month's show is June 17th. And Willie Stewart, who's here tonight, will basically tell you his life story in 15 minutes. Jeff Dade from Forterra will let you know what's going on in the Rite Aid building on Hilltop. And you've probably seen those gorgeous painted murals. So he'll talk about what they do at Forterra. And then Claire Etheridge of Tupac and that's the group of dancers, and you might have seen them performing around Tacoma, and that'll probably involve some music also. So the last thing we're doing tonight is looking at 3 videos that we took off YouTube. And some of you may have known Lani Lisa Lawrence. And she died a little more than a year ago. And she was an enormously popular person in Tacoma, known for dancing especially. And she was a belly dancer, a contra dancer. I only knew her slightly, and I'm sorry I couldn't find anybody that could give you a more in-depth description of what she was known for. But what she did during COVID was pick a song and then put it out on the internet. Anybody can dance to this song. These were all Tacoma people. And then she edited those videos into one song with all these different people dancing in it. And they were so uplifting during COVID. So Erik, do you want to play those 3 videos? Thank you. She's in all these.
You broke my heart, 'cause I couldn't dance. You didn't even want me around. And now I'm back to let you know I can really shake 'em down. Do you love me?
So if you want to see more of those videos, I think there are about 8 of them on YouTube. I think if you looked up Celtic Rose, you'd be able to see them. So a lot of local people are in them. It's pretty fun to see what they're willing to do on camera. Let's see, a couple of things. I wanted to tell you that for the August show, and I don't usually plan that far ahead, but my brother and sister will both be in town. All 3 of us are artists. I'm a sculptor, my brother is a watercolor artist, and my sister is a mixed media artist. And so we're gonna have a show where the 3 of us each present our work for 15 minutes. Should be pretty entertaining. And then the other thing I wanted to tell you is on Sunday morning from 11 to 3 in front of the Museum of Glass, Dick and I, Dick, could you stand up and look at the crowd? We are hosting a workshop for the general public in how to remake a lampshade using plastic, recycled plastic, which we will sew on and glue on and tie on. And then I made a giant lamp that will be for the museum, and they'll use it for display, and we'll make a giant lampshade also, so you can either make your own or participate in that from a... It's all about recycling plastic. And this plastic is the type that is like a bread wrapper, so it's got some imagery on it, and it's got color. So also those bags, sometimes you buy a salad that's in a plastic bag. So that soft plastic that you can sew easily. Thank you. Thanks for coming.